My name is Charlie Bryan. We are at the Spark Museum of Electrical Invention in Bellingham, Washington, and I am the manager of the museum.
We're especially excited to be here because KMRE got its start as the future of the Spark Museum. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so our roots go all the way back to 1985, maybe a little bit before that, but our co-founder, Jonathan Winter, he had been a lifelong radio collector, and he established a tiny little museum. I think it was just called the Bellingham Radio Museum on Railroad Avenue, and this was about 85. And one of his early ideas, even back then for the museum, was he was like, I want to have a 1920s radio station. He ended up linking with John Jenkins, who was born and raised in Bellingham, a little bit south on Lake Samish. And John had been a lifelong collector as well. When he became aware of Jonathan and his contribution to the community, the two kind of hit it off, decided to join forces. And they made the American Museum of Radio and Electricity. We applied to be a nonprofit, and again, this kind of came up. We want to have a radio station at the museum. So that's where it started. Fast forward, became KMRE, operated right through those curtains over there, and then a little studio upstairs as well in the museum. That lasted, I want to say maybe 8 or 9 years, but ended up kind of both outgrowing each other, both kind of going in different directions. The capacity of the museum was growing into more interactive exhibits, more exhibit space, staffing it a little bit differently, and then KMRE was kind of growing as well. So we're both still big supporters of one another, clearly, because you're here today, and we love you guys, but you know, at this juncture in time, we got a lot of exciting things that we'll touch on later that we're planning for the museum, so we needed the space and capacity to work on those things. The biggest milestone is probably changing our name from AMRE, the American Museum of Radio and Electricity, to the Spark Museum of Electrical Invention. And then coinciding with that, we acquired one of the largest Tesla coils in the country called the Mega Zapper, big custom-made Faraday cage, and developed our weekend Mega Zapper electrical show as well. So that was a big milestone for the museum. Another big milestone was we hosted our first ever haunted lab experience for Halloween. So Bellingham is a big Halloween community. The museum lends itself to a lot of storied history, a lot of old artifacts, a lot of Halloween-y stuff. But this past fall, we did a interactive haunted house, haunted lab experience, and we're overwhelmed with the support from the community. We had about 230 people in just a couple hours come through the museum. We're definitely not a children's museum. We're definitely not an old antique museum, but we occupy a pretty unique niche in the museum community, and we really try to touch on that. So that event was no different. So,
what challenges has the museum faced, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, so I would like to say we have overcome them, but we are still in the process of overcoming a lot of them. So we get a lot of visitors from out of town, a lot of tourist business. People in the community also love us. However, we need a lot of support and help. And so a lot of people see us, they're like, they're doing great things there, but we're a really small organization. We have 3 staff members. And one of the biggest challenges with any nonprofit and any museum is creating a really solid board of directors to help kind of financially guide the museum, work on grants, other community support, get people involved. And we had a fantastic board director, Arlie Norman, who passed away several years ago. And so we have still been kind of trying to fill that void a little bit. Our board is fantastic now, but it's pretty small, like everything at the museum. So we're hoping to grow that, gain more community support. But we're about to embark on some big building renovations. And this is definitely the time where if you like the Spark Museum, if you like what we do here, every little bit of support helps, and we really need the community to come through, help us out, get the word out, keep visiting, keep having school groups, but that's our biggest hurdle is gaining that solid direction of the board and gaining a lot of contributions from the community to help us grow the museum and continue to serve our community in better ways and ways that we feel different holes in our experience that we'd like to improve on as well.
Have you thought about bringing students in as interns to help?
Absolutely. So we have run an intern program with Western for the last probably 15 years. We always have open applications for internships, and we kind of see where we're at with the museum, projects we might be working on, things that interns would like to get out of their internship to help them out with their future careers, and where those intersect. That's kind of where an internship is born. Any way like that we can mutually benefit each other in different opportunities, and we hope to grow that program in the future as well. So.
Speaking of students, I know the Spark Museum hosts field trips. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
We get, this year, overwhelming response again. But we have 1 to 2 school groups almost every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. There's a couple of schools. Columbia Elementary brings their first grade class every single year. We have some amazing posters I'll show you guys in the back of the museum, some art from those students. Again, we really try to inspire kids. Analogy we like to use is you don't go to see a symphony to learn music theory, to learn how to play that music, but you go to be inspired. You go to fall in love with the music, fall in love with that environment. And we just want kids to fall in love with science, with physics, with electricity. And we're not here to teach you dates and particulars like that, but we just wanted to get you excited about it, understand science is for everyone. It's so gratifying when we hear kids leaving the door, having a great time, or even if teachers have brought them a few different places for field trips that day, and they may say we're their favorite one, which, not to brag, but it does happen. And we're really proud of what we do here. We always want to have more resources, more volunteers, more docents, more staff members to help out with that. But we're really fortunate that we do get a lot of school groups, and it's a big part of what we do. And so we see about 20,000 people a year, and a good portion of that is definitely school groups. So. One of my favorite experiences at the museum, my coworker Tana Granick and I get to do our electrical show on the weekends, and it's a lot of fun. It's an hour-long show, take you through different points in history. Several weeks ago, a kid came up to me afterwards, and he was with his parents, and he was kind of waiting till I put some stuff away, and he really wanted to say something to me. But he brought me aside, and he said, after watching your performance there, I want to be a scientist. And that to me was very inspiring, and this kind of thing happens a lot, but this happened very recently. And spent some time with the kid, asked him what he was into, took him around, showed him a few spots in the museum I liked. But getting that firsthand comment of a kid who is inspired, who our goal of what we do here, you get to see that manifested in someone, and seeing that firsthand. I've worked in museums also for about 8 years, and I can tell you right now, I did not get that experience at any of the other museums I worked at. And so it is eternally gratifying here, getting to see that turn around and getting that feedback. It's very inspiring, keeps us very motivated for doing what we do.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Wonder Lab project?
Absolutely. We have been a little quiet about this for the last few years while we've been getting everything in order. But upstairs we have an activity center. Partially, part of that space was occupied by KMRE as well. So right now we have some games, funhouse mirrors, building blocks, magnet towers, things like that for kids to play with, but we know how much better it can be. And one need that we see in the community, whether it's with homeschool groups or families visiting on the weekend, is you get grandparents, you get parents, you get kids, and then younger siblings, even babies. And so the museum is a little tricky for kids 5 and under at present. We want everyone to have a good time. We do get a lot of kids under 5 that have a good time, but we know it can be way better. And the main thing that we strive for, and the main thing that families and kids want, is great. We look at all these artifacts, but what does it do? What can we get our hands on? How can we actually engage in learning about this? And Wonder Lab is going to help us fit that need in the community. One thing a lot of our co-founders and older folks that work in the museum kind of lament is when they were growing up, science was their favorite subject. They loved it. They got to go to labs. They got to do hands-on experiments. A lot of the funding for that and a lot of the capacity school have for that has gone to the wayside. So a lot of times kids these days don't get that hands-on experience that they used to. So we want to provide a place that they can absolutely do that, be creative, explore different physics topics, explore problem solving, explore the process of invention, explore alternate energy sources, explore different power draws from things. So we always try to keep electricity at the core, but also loop it into the whole modern world and loop it into just being curious about the natural world around us, because a lot of these big discoveries we talk about at the museum were born from people just being curious about something and trying to figure it out. So we hope that space up there can be a great space for families, younger kids, and a little bit more space for us to do more things like workshops, better space for summer camps, birthday parties, things like that as well. So we're really looking forward to it.
Lastly, what's your personal favorite part of the museum?
So that is a very difficult question to ask because over the years that I've been here, my interest in all of this has only exponentially increased. And so certain areas of the museum that I was into when I first came have now been superseded by other areas. But one thing that has made pretty steadfast is my love of music, starting with music boxes in 1850 to the very first audio recordings to player pianos to wire recorders to a lot of early technology, Edison diamond discs that a lot of people aren't familiar with. We have a lot of working examples of all of those. So I love giving that demonstration, kind of walking you through different points in history and really realizing how lucky we are to live in a day and age that we have access to every song in recorded history in our pocket. Because not even 200 years ago, you had to go see a concert to learn how to play music, and those were your only options. So love everything in here, but I gotta say the music stuff is very near and dear to my heart. So
It's near and dear to our heart as well.
yeah.